Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share, I would call it an unboxing, but this is a review unit and this one didn't come with a box. So we're looking today at the VAIO SX12. Now, I covered the SX14 in the past, and that really is their cream of the crop right now. Remember, VAIO is no longer a part of Sony. They haven't been for years. Sony still, I think, has a little bit of ownership, but they are an independent company and they carry on the VAIO lineage. And this laptop, I believe, is selling now for around 1,000 US. They sent me the Core i5 version. Has a full HD display, 12-inch display at that. And I believe this is, as I said, a Core i5 with 8 gigs of RAM. There's no touch screen with this. The same hinge design as the 14-inch model, so I actually think that's a fairly brilliant design they've got going on there, that it basically dissipates heat, keeps thermals in check by lifting up the laptop. In fact, I've seen people copying this already. Power port right there, the included power cable that came with it. It does have USB output so that you can charge additionally, and I believe it is also a quick charger, but I will correct myself if it is not. We have 2 USB 3.0 ports there, a headphone jack, flip it around, and we've got a full-size SD card slot. How I do love seeing that as a photographer. Another USB 3.0, but I believe this 3.0 is, is rated higher for charging. That's why you see the lightning bolt there. Then a Type-C, HDMI out, Ethernet, and believe it or not, yeah, that's right, VGA, baby. So this is, again, aimed strictly at business users, I would say, for the most part, because what does it accomplish? It gives you a little business machine, really compact. This is what VAIO used to be all about. We have a fingerprint scanner right here. Let's go ahead and see if there's any power out of the box. And I'll go over some specifications. There is power. Bring that IPS display. Now that is as far back as it's going to go. Trackpad is fairly small. We do have a backlit keyboard. You can see it's going through the paces. And I don't know how many people have tested this out, but it's an exciting little machine because now I'm going to take you through the specs. In terms of what you're getting, this specific model, again, is the i5. It's the 8265U, and that's clocked at 1.6 gigahertz. The turbo boost up to 3.9, but more importantly, 6 megs of cache. Integrated graphics, it's the Intel 620. The 8 gigs of DDR3 RAM. Would I like to see more? Yeah, but the person who's buying this probably doesn't need more than that. Now, this is the first startup, at least for me, in terms of my review, so we'll get there. But other things you should know, as I mentioned, it's not a 12-inch display. It's 12.5 to be precise, and it is 1920 by 1080. I said no touchscreen. You have a 512 gig PCI Express, aka NVMe SSD drive, and then you already saw all the I/O. I mean, you've got Ethernet, you've got one Type-C, as I showed you, which also, of course, can put out, video, not just act as a power delivery method or transfer. It does both. You also have a USB 3.1 with charge. That was the other one I showed you with the lightning bolt. Then 2 USB 3.0 traditional ports, HDMI, VGA, and the headphone jack that also doubles as a microphone jack. Wi-Fi, you have ABGN and AC, Bluetooth 4.0. A little surprised they didn't go with 5.0, but that's mostly in phones, not necessarily in laptops these days. I showed you the full-size SD card slot, which again, I appreciate tremendously. Of course, it is the webcam center mounted there is a 1 megapixel. This is pretty much standard for VAIO. They're not trying to give you, the most amazing image quality. It's just something there that is functional. And then last but not least, they're estimating battery life at 10.5 hours, which is very good in my opinion for a machine that weighs under 2 pounds. And it comes in a variety of different colors. I think this is all about portability. It's all about travel. If you want the lightest and I would say well-built machine on the market. I'm going to take this a little wider. I should have done that at the top of the video. Let's see how wide I can get here. You're looking at it probably, especially at its price point. I mean, I'd rather get something from VAIO any day of the week than from a lot of the other manufacturers. I'll call them the new kids on the block, even though they're not so new. This reminds me, a lot of just the lineage of the product. You can see their sample unit, not for sale. Don't worry, VAIO, I'm not selling it. And what they do continue to get right is to not make some cockamamie looking crazy, design. This is something that you won't be embarrassed to take to work or to have in your home, that has power. I'm not, by the way, saying there aren't other manufacturers that make machines that aren't embarrassing or ridiculous, that they're all ridiculous looking, but I'm just saying minimalist. And most importantly, besides having the processor you need, and the form factor, and hopefully the battery life is true, you have just I/O. I mean, that is what VAIO, that just happened to happen, folks, in my opinion, has begun to own in their space. So it's not just about craftsmanship. It's not just about the actual overall aesthetic, but it's that if you are interested in having the most broad array of I/O options, VAIO is the company to go with, because really no other laptops out there right now, ultrabooks, whatever you want to call them, it's certainly not a notebook, none of them have the I/O options that VAIO keeps delivering. And VAIO does that because they know that they want to attract professionals as well as the rest of the market. They don't want it to be one or the other, kind of, I think, trying to stay away from the stigma of, what you'd think of with Lenovo, with the ThinkPads, what used to be, of course, IBM. You don't want it to be strictly business. And that's what's kind of nice about VAIO, is that they give you something that is strictly business, but it isn't ugly. It doesn't make you feel like it's only business. And that's what I've always liked about VAIO, is that they deliver on both fronts. So it'll be interesting to see how this performs. I loved the portability, form factor, everything about its larger sibling that I reviewed earlier, or a while back. This, of course, doesn't have a 4K display, but it is lighter, not by that much, but still lighter, less powerful overall. This is, no i7 here, no 16 gigs of RAM. It doesn't have a terabyte NVMe, but it still is a very solid build for $1,000 in my opinion. And you have VAIO to stand behind it, which I think means something. At any rate, hope you enjoyed the video. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.